The next book I have is a book about Charlemagne by a medievalist by the name of Matthias Becher, who was actually German, and this book was translated into English. Here's the book. Nice little cover art there. Charlemagne is unique in being one of those historical figures whose best biographers write short, pithy, insightful works about them. Einhardt's work, Vita Caroli Magni, is roughly contemporaneous with Charlemagne, and it's kind of set the model for what I'm talking about. Notker Balbus's Gesta Caroli Magni, which was written later on in the 9th century, began to set a long trend of mythologizing Charlemagne's role in Frankish history. This volume, which is a very serviceable contribution by Matthias Becher, adds to that tradition of brevity that I'm talking about, while never really falling into Notker's tendency to apotheosize its subject. The story begins, I guess it doesn't really begin, but we all learn in school that the story begins on Christmas Day of the year 800, when Pope Leo III crowns Charlemagne the Emperor of the Romans, an event which will lay the formation for the rise of medieval Europe. In a Europe where the Roman Emperor had been gone for centuries, how was it that Charlemagne had consolidated the disparate Merovingian territories into a united Frankish kingdom? And that question is really at the heart of the book that Becher's trying to write, and he poses several different answers to that question, none of which I specifically want to go into here. I just kind of want to talk a little bit about the book because I remember liking it so much. When Charlemagne's father, Pippin the Short, died, he left Charlemagne and his brother Charlemagne I as co-emperors to rule the empire together. After just a few years of rule, though, Charlemagne died rather unexpectedly at the age of 20, leaving his older brother as the sole ruler from 771 until his death 43 years later, in, I think, 814. Becher covers many of the most interesting topics of Charlemagne's reign in detail. The conquering of the Saxons, the Avars, the Bavarians, the political influence of Pope Leo III, who made him the Emperor of the Romans, his vastly influential educational reforms, due in part to his brilliant librarian and scholar that he had at his court in Aachen, who is named Alcuin, and changes in ecclesiastical structure, too. Becher ends the discussion with an epilogue, which he calls Hero and Saint, discussing how Charlemagne's complex role in Frankish history has been taken up by historians over the past 12 centuries, from Notker to the German historian and historiographer Ranke. This book, along with Reinhardt and Notker, serve as a wonderful introduction to Charlemagne's life and times. For the more sophisticated student who wants to fill in the gaps left by these three accounts, I would really recommend a superb book, not nearly as short as the three that I've mentioned in this review, including Becher himself, but it's a book by Rosamund McKitterick, which is called Charlemagne, the Formation of European Identity. It's much more scholarly, footnoted, annotated, etc., but it's a wonderful book. It fills in a lot of spots, and I can't say it's quite as narratively engaging as any of the other three, but it is very informative. Matthias Becher's Charlemagne.